Okay, here we go. Trying to get everything situated to go live. If you're here, say hello. Oh man, I never can get that thing figured out. All right, it's Mama Chat, episode 3. We're in our second week of homeschool. We got a lot going on. We got a lot to talk about today. Kind of crazy. Let me see if I got all this set up. Going through. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Kitty. How are you guys today? I thought I got most of my kids out, but I always end up with the littlest guy wants to stay. And it's just like, not so good. So, all right, listen. I was going to do, so today's episode, hey, Jackie. So today's episode was like, you can't do it all, but that's going to have to wait till next time unless you guys come up with something better. Hold on. Or we'll quit snapping those trains. I got a little guy over there playing, he's playing Geotracks, and it's really messing with my attention span. So, hey, Homeschool Life with Shabby Chick. Hey, Mama Cat. I'll tell you, I felt so bad that I could not get yesterday's weekly vlog in. So I'm totally having a spaced out moment right now. Good morning, or good afternoon, Sarah. Hello, Candy. Hey, Yellow Spot. I was just on the phone with her just a moment ago. I was like, I gotta go. Hey, Amanda. How are you guys doing? I'm cooking a late lunch, but at least I can listen, right? I've thought about at times like putting these to podcast because I would, you know, would that not be cool? I've been loving, as I've been learning about podcasting, I didn't really get it at first, but now I enjoy the fact that I'm not like sharing my intention and everybody's speaking as though they can, you know, that you're not going to see anything, which works out really cool. So, hey, campus. I already said hey to you. Hey, Lone Star Homeschool Mama. Hey, Homeschool Life with Shabby Chick. You're loving the wall. You know, I'm looking for my chalkboard paint. I think I need to go paint more. I'm going to do chalkboard paint on there just because I like that color that comes out. And I could chalkboard on it if I wanted to. And touch that up. But I still am not done in here. I'm working. I did upgrade to an IKEA shelf. But they're not continuing these anymore, which I thought was crazy. Can you see that better if I get it that way? I've been having a humidifier going nonstop because it is August in Florida and it is hot. So getting that done. But I'm working on a little bit at a time, not get myself overwhelmed like I could do. Hello, Carrie. Kitty's cooking a late lunch too. Well, it's only late if you're Eastern time. Y'all West Coast girls are just fun. Learning as we grow. Hello, Peace and Pantry. Hello. I'm not gonna lie, I am missing Tangi. Tangi kind of keeps me straight, and I do well. You know, I can do good on my own, but it is something else going on. Hey, why don't you go onto the house and get something to eat? I would really appreciate that. Thank you. See if he wants to go with you. Real life. Yeah, go see if he wants to go with you. I can't think with them here. I cannot at all. Good evening. Yes, it's hot. I'm here in Florida too. Right? It is like stinking hot. It is like you walk out and you stink, and the deodorant is not cutting it. It's just not. I mean, we were singing in church and I was doing just some hallelujah, and I was only doing the one arm because I had a friend on my left side. I didn't really want to lift my arm up. My daughter was just like, I'm not next to you again during praise in August because she's like, I smelt you, Mom. And she's like this high. So she's like right at the perfect level. And I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that. Oh my goodness. Learning as we grow. We're cooking a late lunch and I'm starting an early dinner. I got my dinner started. I called my husband. I was like, I need some, what do you want for dinner? He's like, spaghetti would be so good. You're hearing that thing. She set off. Y'all go get some lunch. I haven't had lunch yet. I think I'm gonna have a dinner lunch thing. Kind of going, but I got the spaghetti going, and then I had to run up and go get some pasta before this show got started. Carrie says she's working on making buttercream for cupcakes for a wedding shower this weekend. Nice. I'd have a hard time not eating that. I'm not gonna lie. Geometry Dash, you've been hanging out. I've been so appreciative. You've been coming around. So glad to be here. Please excuse my name. Shared my account with my 9-year-old son. I think it's great. I think it's a great name. Kitty says, dinner, don't put the pressure on me. I only did it because, you know, if I don't get it going in the morning, I'm going to forget to do it today. Peace and Pantry says, I'm working on getting organized with school and getting my paperwork in for our homeschool group. Cool. New homeschool mom this year. Yay, Teresa. Everybody give her some clapping hands, taking the plunge. Yay, you can do this. You got it. Just one step at a time. Just one step at a time. All right, so I've got to tell you guys, I've had just a crazy journey. So I'm going to try and tell my story as I keep up because now y'all are up on it. I don't know what we are doing for dinner. Okay, yes, me too. Laundry was insane. Hey, first time homeschooling mama here. So excited to watch your videos and see all the advice that you give. Yay, Carson, give her some happy hands too. Perks of the job, got to taste it to make sure it's good. Yep, perks of the job. Okay, so about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at youth camp at church. And the crazy part is, like, we have an amazing group in our church that's part of the youth, the parents that go, that are school teachers. And we were discussing some stuff, and I've discussed with you guys about the fact that I did not get reading comprehension until my graduate year. And I obviously had some learning issues. I didn't learn to read. I'm now kind of realizing that that is not the case. I knew how to read. I couldn't focus on what I read. And so during this conversation, we were talking about like some of the obstacles I went through, and I don't even know who it is because I just want to hug her and say thank you. She goes, well, did you ever think that you had a learning disability? And I was like, no. Wait, what do you think it would be? You know, it never crossed my mind. So I'm going to let you know, I still have nightmares at college. My nightmares are, I missed a class because I forgot that I had a class on Tuesday at 4 o'clock and I missed it. I mean, I don't know what class it is. It's a new class every time I have a dream, but I missed the class. And because I missed the class, I missed the homework. I don't know what the list of the homework is and I can't catch up. I've missed an assignment. I missed something. I showed up to the wrong class because this was some of the stuff that would happen to me in college. Besides the fact, if you're on my Facebook as a friend, I can never find my keys. In fact, I actually don't know where 3 sets of keys are right now. Yes. And let me jump in here. It says, good time. What? That's what I'm planning on doing. Going to try and see how things go to let the kids get used to homeschooling. Yay. So y'all are talking about that. You've had those dreams too, Kitty. Yeah, those are dreams I have all the time. Things I have some really wonderful friends that I have some really wonderful friends that will come in about every 2 to 3 years and will help me reorganize my house. And it's always back to the same condition. I have somebody else come in. And I get so upset. Like for years now, I'd get upset. I'm like, it's like I don't even see the pile in the corner. Why do I not notice the pile in the corner? And there's just like obvious piles I just never notice. If you don't know, I have like 15 planners going at once. I have 14 million different places that I keep all this stuff, and I can never find things. Seriously, it just drives me nuts. Hello, Charlene. Wendy has those dreams. I'd love to be your Facebook friend, Kitty. I lose keys all the time. Amen, right? Mama Cat says, in other words, get yourself a hobby. You're rocking in homeschool. I want the attendance and progress sheets you made, please. I can give them to you, but the problem is that you kind of have, this is what I will do. I will wipe out all the major things. I'll wipe out like their names and I'll leave like one spot with like kid names, subject, task, like that. And then you go in and edit it. And just try not to change certain things and you should be fine. And we'll give you, and just copy the sheet or something or another. I'll figure something out for that. Okay. So yeah, and don't even get me on attendance because so I have spent most of my educational years of going to college feeling like an imposter. I did not want to let the teachers know about me, because they would have figured out that, let's get rid of this one. Remove. I didn't want anybody to figure out, like, I just couldn't get it done. And I kind of felt like a screw up most of the time. Try to keep things in order, but my husband is National Guard military stuff is piled here and there and everywhere. Yes, I have ADD, but I learned to work around it myself. Public school did nothing to help me. They did not understand how someone disorganized could be so intelligent. Right? Mama Cat, you got it. Thank you for offering to take a wrench, because we need that. Sorry, you guys. I'm a little, this is the first time I'm like talking about this publicly. Well, I've been talking to my mom. My mom's like, shh, shh, don't tell anybody. I was like, are you kidding me? I feel like, wow. So, all right, say something so I can make sure, Mama Troll, I got you set up as a moderator. So anyways, I felt like an imposter. So I started and looking at, and I mean, okay, so on top of this, I made it through high school somehow. I made it through my bachelor's degree. I almost flunked out because I didn't know to check email, and I didn't like get certain things, and I almost flunked out because I couldn't figure out where things were. It just was like mass confusion for me. Good, you got it. And I almost flunked out. In fact, I had to have a professor take like a major chance on me because she wanted my personality to do the work that needed to be done. And that's how I got to graduate school. Graduate school worked fine. I went to the real world. Man, working in the real world, my brain was on fire. Like, nobody can touch me when it comes to working. And it kind of goes to my head, which is probably a great reason why I stay at home with kids kind of deal. But so somebody had made that mention, and then I've been working the last 2 weeks with my 7-year-old, and she can't stay still. She can't, like, we got the DVD program with BJU, and it's working out really good. We're having to make some tweaks, like I talked about in our last week. And I started noticing, like, she wants to fast forward. She's just kind of jumpy all over the place, and I'm giving her directions, and like, it's like they just went right past her. And we had at one point a heartbreaking moment here, and she's like kind of running around and she's getting the directions mixed up. So it's really happening really bad. And she comes to me and she goes, Mom, I'm trying so hard to be good. I'm sorry, I'm so bad. Oh, can you just like, just have that moment and just say, ah. Oh, and I said, you're not being bad. Your heart is just wanting to be so good, and your heart is right. You're just kind of messing up the directions a little bit. And that really kind of got me thinking about the ADHD and the ADD, and I didn't know what the difference was. And in fact, even up until yesterday, I still thought ADD was a separate thing from ADHD, and now I understand that ADHD is either inattentive, hyperactive, or both, and the inattentive was the former ADD. So I'm understanding that a bit more. And as I'm reading about her, I'm reading the characteristics of ADD. Can I tell you? I will probably cry because I'm I'm premenopausal, hormonal. Hello, Crystal. But it is like everything I ever fought, and that I always feel like I'm not measuring up, has been released, and it becomes, no, that is just what your brain doesn't do. You are doing everything amazing for what your brain does. And what your brain doesn't do, you have been amazing at finding ways to work around it, how to cope with it, and how to change things up. For the first time in my life, that has happened this last week, I have stopped quietly, silently tearing myself up for not being the conventional brain. The freedom that has just burst from me. I mean, I'm just like crazy excited because for the first time, I realize why I get angry when I'm finally getting something done, that I'm getting something done and somebody's interrupting me. You know, when I'm having my hyper focus moment, leave me alone. You know, carefully come and withdraw me, but don't abruptly. So as, oh, I'm missing some great topics. So as I'm dealing with this and I'm learning this, I'm looking at my family going, I'm having some serious emotional breakdowns right now. And in my home life, in my personal life, because we're living in 700 square feet. I've always had a sensory issue too that has yet to be diagnosed. I can't handle noise. And as I talk to my mom, you know, about things in the past, I'm talking little Trish at 13 years old had a melting point of just tears rolling down my face because I'm in a crowd and I'm not handling it well. And so I have some sensory disorder, you know, issues with noise. And here I'm in 700 square feet. There's 8 of us for the time being. And it's kind of making me go crazy. And I'm realizing some of my meltdowns that I'm having right now have to do with the fact that the way I used to like handle my limitations, like my unknown limitations, how I would cope with things, the mechanics in which I coped with things, I can't do right now because of just our situation, if that makes sense. And so I'm just kind of, I got to figure this out. So as I'm doing this, me and my husband have had a lot of times where we have arguments about certain things. And a lot of times it's along lines of, he comes home and it's like he's angry, you know, and he's very rah, 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 and he has a tendency to be a little naggy. I love my husband dearly. This is not me having a gripe session on him, but he'll be a bit naggy. And I'm just kind of like, you know, you need to calm down. And, you know, I'm constantly picking at him and stuff. So as I'm reading about the ADHD, I'm going, oh, no wonder why you and I are together. No wonder why you and I get each other. And I always say, like, my husband grounds me. My husband grounds me because if it, in my ADD, you know, I don't really do schedules very well. I do really good on certain things, but I don't do schedules really well. My husband is the hyperactive ADHD. So I'm thinking some of us that are like, oh my goodness, you are explaining who I am. This is what I'm dealing with all the time. My husband, so you might also end up in the aspect of, did we marry somebody who has a conventional brain, or did we marry somebody who also has an ADHD brain? This is all new stuff. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even, I've got to go find a doctor to like go figure out, besides the fact of what I learned to change, like what do I kind of need to know and what do we need to kind of pay attention to? Because I'm looking at my husband going, you are hyperactive ADHD. And as I'm reading hyperactive ADHD, he needs a schedule. He married an ADD wife. There's no schedule. You know, we just kind of roll with it and we follow what's interesting at the moment and we drop what's not and we just keep moving on. And last night we kind of had it a little bit last night because he's like, this wasn't done. And, you know, for the first time in my life, instead of going where in the past it would be like, you are not doing this right, your character's bad, you know, this is how I would take it in. I looked at him and I went, oh, your ADHD brain says it's this time to do this, this, and this, and this. Oh, it's not that you want me to be that person, it's just that this is what you need. And, you know, I signed up to be that person. Oh, okay, you know, now I'm getting it. And so I'm kind of like, wow. And there's been times we fought in the past where he would start, you know, like, you haven't done this and you're not doing this. And I mean, I would be in Walmart looking at him and I'm like, but that doesn't make me a bad person. That doesn't make you a good person. That's just who you are. That's who I am. So I've been kind of noticing those things before. And I really have to laugh because I'm going to tell you right now, number one, me really, oh, I got to talk about that too, about the labels. Me realizing that I am ADHD does not mean I'm less of a person. Does not feel like, are you going to get that one? There we go. I guess I have hit status lately because I have been getting some really weird hate mail. Or hate, you know, I've been getting haters. I'm like, wow, noob status there. Definitely going to have to keep my trustees, be handing out more wrenches to my trustees. You know, but it becomes really easy to just be like, you know, kind of get on yourself. And I've been that way in the past. So it's really funny. I kind of came across this. I printed this up. It's not the best one. If you go on Pinterest, I have like a new Pinterest board that's called ADHD, ADD family that I started where as I'm doing my research, I have some new books coming. And I had to laugh. So I want to go through this list because it's just like, wow, you know, and it's like the 25 things to love about ADD. And so I've read this to my husband because I'm just like, these are things that like make him crazy. And I'm just like, wah, ha, 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 ha. No, ban them. If they come in, Mama Cat, if they come in nasty, if they come in just of no use, ban them. Does that make sense? Ban them. They're gone. Goodbye. Bye, Felicia, kind of deal. If it's one of our moms that just kind of gets a little bit overexcited in the conversation, then, you know, timeout's good. Kind of cool back off. But if they're just coming in nasty, goodbye. All right. So I died laughing. One of the fights my husband and I have all the time is he's like, go to bed. And I'm like, my brain doesn't want to go to bed. And he's like, go to bed. And I'm like, but my brain doesn't want to. And so number one is insomnia makes for more time to stay up and surf the net. Amen. Amen. I can get some of the most amazing things done in the middle of the night when the whole house is quiet. I can do some cool stuff, and I am a crazy researcher, and I research a ton of stuff, and it allows me to know a lot of things, and I'm just chasing whatever rabbit trail that I'm interested at the time. And I've learned a lot of stuff because of that. In fact, when I was in graduate school and I had to write my thesis, I actually foiled the window shut. Yeah, total ADD, you know, foiled the window shut so that I couldn't see the light. I turned the ringer off. I cranked the AC down so I had it a little bit cooler so it would mimic 10 p.m. because my brain could not study until 10 o'clock at night, until about 2, 3 in the morning. So then I would just go ahead and set myself up. I wrote for 3 straight weeks. And I wrote for 3 straight weeks. And I did that by faking my body out to make it think that it was like 3 a.m. 24 hours a day. So I'd do a little work, sleep, snack, do a little work, you know, and I just napped. Did a total like Thomas Edison thing. You guys are like on it. I know, Charlene, I'm supposed to stay off. Oh, my allergies are bothering me. I'm supposed to stay off electronics. And I was reading about like why, because there's a blue light in there that mimics the light thing. And I know, but I could read. The other night I was reading a book and I was using the light from my phone to read the book. So I was literally like this reading my book. And I'm like, I need a book light instead of this. But it's just like my brain's up. Some of my best editing happens at night. And then it makes me frustrated because I have my computer out in the schoolhouse and not at the house. And it'll be like first thing in the morning. And I'm like, let's get going. So, but yeah, my husband is not that person. He is like bed at 8. And I'm like, you're killing me, man. You're killing my creative vibe. And, you know, he's always telling me like, seriously, just go to bed. And I'm like, but dude, I just want to create things. And he doesn't get it, but it's so funny. Number 2, the drive to hyperfocus. Oh my goodness. If hyperfocus like releases, like, I think it's dopamine. If I have a hyperfocus session, I am like on euphoria the rest of the day. In fact, most times when I'm having the live show, because I'm in hyperfocus mode for the live show, I'm in euphoria the rest of the day, sometimes to the point I can't function, which is a lot of times why we end up having 3-hour mama chats. And that is why I'm like, stop time. You know, I have to regulate in the way that I can regulate. And right now, because we live in a tiny house, it's really hard to get up in the middle of the night and do my hyper focus time, because I'll wake everybody up. And I don't mean to, but man, it makes me crazy. Okay, resiliency. Well, you know, you guys, I lost my house. My house got flooded. I've moved 4 times. I'm still at it. Resilience. I mean, you can't help it. It's just like, okay, if that didn't work, go to something else. That didn't work, go to something else. Sparkling personalities, number 4. Yeah, got that. Generosity with money, time, and resources. To a fault. Have always been. I have no concept of time. Hence why I have this like little gadget here that's a timer. No concept of time. No, you're on the property, but what are you living in? I am living in a single wide mobile home that is in the same neighborhood. It's just across the street. The person that had lived there, the neighbor, he was older gentleman. A couple of years ago, he passed away, and it was in, the brother had, and he didn't want it anymore. And we ended up getting it. It's a temporary solution. We'll rent it out and use it as a rental. And when the kids get older, if they want to live in it, they can live in it. But that's what we're living in. Depression is another thing that with ADD and ADHD, because it gets aggravated with everything. Right. And that's in there. I do. And that's one of the things, like, I've always suffered with anxiety. Well, some of my anxiety is because, like, my brain wants to hyper focus and feel productive, and it's spinning its wheels. Ingenuity, man, that's my whole family. We got that. A strong sense of what is fair. I feel like I do. I do see things from other sides, but I'm like, yeah, I got that. A willingness to take risk. Did I sell my house? Not yet. I'm waiting on it. What I am reading is, I'm reading this list from the ADD Etude, but it's crazy because you can find this on a link. I have it linked in my Pinterest board, but when you go to the website, you can't find it. I find yoga helps. It gives me my body some release of the energy and something for my brain to do. It calms my, yeah, and I've got, which is making me really be more like attentive. Like, I don't need to exercise because I need to lose weight. I need to exercise so my brain functions out. What do you suggest for kids who don't have a sense of time, and how do you function as a family? Do you let them go by their own clock, or do you have to get them on a family clock? Okay, that is kind of where I'm progressing, and I'm doing my research on. I will tell you, when Dad is home, during those hours is scheduled. When Dad is gone, no schedule. And so that means we are functioning on a schedule from about 5, 6 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. We're on his schedule with what works because of his ADHD hyperactivity. Now, I have some of my children. I have one that's sitting on both, and I have 2 that are definitely sitting with him. And what I've been using in the past is this little thing here. And the new part is I'm actually educating my kids along with me, like, hey, what do you think? We did, this doesn't mean much to you guys. This was one quiz we took on inactive, and this was hyperactive quiz that we took. And you can kind of see I've got these 2 that are prevalent inactive, but they're not hyperactive. I have one that didn't really function on the hyperactive or on the inactive, but she really came home on the hyperactive. And then I got this one right here that really sent me on a full journey. That's both. And Dad's down here in hyperactive. So what I've decided to do is that I learned coping mechanisms when I was a kid, when it didn't have a name. Now, what I need my kids to do is understand together. We're going to come in together. There's nothing wrong. My daughter's like, why is it even called disorder? It should just be called difference. I'm like, yep, that's what it should be called. And what we're talking about doing or what I'm talking about doing with my kids is sitting down every day, every other day, and we're watching How to ADHD. I really am like loving her. We're kind of binge watching her. We're watching it, and then we're having a conversation. So we're doing about like 5 minutes doing that, and we talk about it. So what we did was like, what is ADHD? And then we took the quiz, and my kids were like, yeah. And they're like, oh my goodness, you have, and they were literally looking at each other going, you have that too? Where they hadn't realized that they weren't the only ones struggling it. I found all this on AdditudeAttitude.com. Let me see if I can see. They have a ton of articles on it. Really, really a good one to go. And, and they'll tell you, they're like, this is not, you still got to go to the doctor and all that stuff kind of deal. So what I'm doing with my kids is I'm having them do that, and then we talk about it kind of deal. And then we, and then we figure out, my big part is identify what's blocking you and find out how to work around it. So where my daughter will sit and stare at something and make herself miserable, my son's kind of figuring out, just move on. And so I'm trying to get my daughter to go, snap out of it. You're not functioning. Do something else. When you're, and essentially as I'm reading it, when you're not in a hyper-focused sense, then do 6 things at one time. And when you're bored of that, move to the next one. Move to the next one and keep going through it until you get the stuff checked off. I mean, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's how I've coped with it in the past. Now that I'm seeing the language to use, so I want my children to realize it's not their fault. They're not dumb. They're just kind of stuck, and they're stuck because their brain doesn't work in that part. So how can we trick our brain and take that ownership on tricking the brain? So in the past, I'm like, take ownership in doing your schoolwork, take ownership in your education. Well, they were trying, but the problem was their brain was their brain was messing them up. So now it's like, hey, do this. Distractions, I totally get it. This kid right here, he is so distracted, not her. This one has always. Part of the reason he took so long to learn to read, please don't use the timer. Actually, set the time. That's perfect. Because we're going to use that for me, because I will forget it's time to stop. But he couldn't sit still, so it was a longer process to handle. He sits in the corner. He has kind of this makeshift wall of stuff, and there's another sibling that sits across, but he doesn't see them. He doesn't have sound coming from the back. He doesn't have sound coming from the side. There's not a lot of sound that happens on this side, so he's only got it kind of one spot. And it works. It really works for him, and the fact that there's a visual, and the only thing he's focusing into is the DVDs. That works so much. The other part that we're realizing, like in my past, I would read things and it wouldn't get further. And I couldn't remember what I read. I still have that. I have to highlight. I cannot hear you. Oh, is it me? Sorry. Hopefully it's better. I would read so many things and none of it stuck, and it was very frustrating, or I'd be so distracted in the classroom I didn't hear what happened, and that became a lot of struggle in my college classes. And some of the reasons why, like unknowingly, I was switching curriculum all the time, I was looking for something that kind of engaged them, because they would start zoning out. Well, what they were doing was actually demonstrating ADHD habits and things that were going on. Hey, Tracy. And so, and I was looking for the next thing that was working with, in our homeschool curriculum. Hence, I was always going through curriculum looking for that good thing, when the reality was it wasn't the curriculum. It was the fact that I wasn't working around their limitations. But I didn't know what our limitations were. I didn't know if it was just us being lazy. I wasn't knowing if it was just us being daydreamers. Like, why can't we get this stuff done? And as I'm reading this ADHD information, I'm like, that's why I can't get it done. What has been nice, because we've gone to the DVDs, and I said, you know what, we need to do the DVDs. When we're having that time that we cannot focus, our brain doesn't have to work so hard to focus to watch a movie. Hence why I love YouTube. and why I'm a lover of YouTube, because you don't have to work so hard to get the information versus trying to read it. I don't know what curriculum works well. I think it's personal. Again, I still think it's personal. Some children totally can handle reading. My daughter, if I give her something to read, she can read all day long. Ask her to now do math problems and she's done. She will stare at the same question for hours. Yet for me, as a kid, you give me math problems all day long and I will do them all day long. Ask me to read something and I will stare at that word for hours. It would not do anything. The page did nothing for me. So it really depends on the kids. What I'm looking at with using our curriculum, I had to finally change it because I could, I was kind of focusing like, hey, you got to watch a DVD. Hey, you got to read. Who cares about the assignments? Well, you know what? That doesn't work with our brains. That's one of the reasons why we have certain problems with certain curriculums. So I had to change my thinking. I'm like, let's give this a test run. Your assignment is your assignment. You have DVDs and you have the textbook to get it figured out. Use those as you need to use those to get your answers on the paper. We're going to test that out, see if it works. You know, it might work for one, it might not work for another kind of deal. You know, my son could watch the DVDs and he's great. He's like, I'm getting this. And the reality is, the assignments actually don't matter. The questions and answering, they don't really matter. What matters is that we learned. We had that exposure. One child might prefer to read that exposure. Another one might prefer to watch that exposure. I actually don't need them to put it on paper, that they learned that exposure, that they had that answered. But that assignment drives the necessity to use the resource. And that's what I'm finding is the motivator in our little ADHD brains for now. But you know, that might be different tomorrow. And that's been kind of a really neat thing is I can open myself up to, it's not horrible that I cannot stay consistent. I'm consistently moving forward. My kids are consistently moving forward. I'm consistently bringing them new chunks. But it has been highly embarrassing to say, we're just kind of over it. I got this curriculum, we did this long, and I just kind of got over it. My kids won't look at it anymore. We had to change it up. And so that's what I've done. I have been demonstrating the ADHD, change it up because we're now bored with it and moving on to something else. And in the midst of it, I've been terribly embarrassed thinking, why can I not be consistent? Why can I not, you know, just stick it out through the boredom? Why can everybody else do this and this seems like such an impossible task, right? I mean, for those of my mamas out there, and then, you know, as you're reading, like, how do you know, I'm finding a lot of books that are like, oh, you're the ADHD adult. You just, you know, and I've been reading a lot of like people in their 40s being diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm reading about children being ADHD. And yet at the same time, they're talking about it's genetic. And I'm like, okay, but what about the family? What about the ADHD family? Where does that fit in? How does that work? So, oh my goodness, you guys are having such an amazing conversation. I'm so sorry that I'm not functioning on both of them. But hey, that's what I do. Anyways, let me go through and finish off this list and just tell you how it's just like, yeah. Number 9 is far-reaching analogies that nobody understands. Every day of my life, some people get them and they're like, yeah. My husband's like, I don't ever know what you're talking about. I'm like, really? Even the one like, hey, I got the ambition to go around the world, but I only have enough gas to get to Walmart, which I feel like is like, come on, you guys, like, right? My husband's like, I don't really get what you're talking about. I'm like, seriously? Spontaneity. You have a Ferrari brain, but Chevy brakes. Oh, yes. You know, Pepper and Pine, I agree. I think ADD and ADHD are normal. The rest of everybody else that can use that frontal lobe, that's for the non-normals. I mean, who needs that, right? Let's see. Creating Essence says, my 9-year-old was diagnosed with autism. My mom has said all along, she says, if he is, I am. It makes sense. I've always been different, but I get by. Right. Let's see. I'm going to have to go back and like copy all of these comments and sit back and read them afterwards. And then I'll spin off some videos afterwards on them. Pleasant, consistent surprises due to finding things. Cleaning the house, although mundane, is horribly difficult for me to do. But the excitement of finding something I didn't know I was missing is absolutely awesome. Awesome. I can't even tell you how many times. Being funny, because, you know, we got to keep rolling with our mistakes we can't find. Being the last of the romantics. I hope so. I hope so. Being a good conversationalist. Let's just say I can even make conversation with myself, and I do it almost every day. Just watch my YouTube channel, right? An innate understanding of intuitive technology such as computers and personal devices. Or we will figure it out in the middle of our insomnia-filled YouTube searching, web surfing, midnight hyperfocus, right? I mean, I will tell you, it has taken me 9 months of whenever I'm interested enough to play around with Adobe Premiere. But hey, can you tell I am figuring out how to video edit? Precious Years says, nowadays a lot of people I see or notice might have ADD or ADHD. I think food has a lot to do with it. I think so. I think there's some things that, you know, you might be borderline and it's messing with your brain. Honestly, believing that anything is possible to a fault. My husband's just like the internal optimist, and I'm like, yep. And this is the inactive ADHD. Rarely satisfied with the status quo. Compassion, persistence. Joining the ranks of artists, musicians, entrepreneurs, and other creative types. I can honestly tell you one of my biggest loves and why I think I will be with YouTube for the long haul is it gives me the ability to create something. Where before I would scrapbook and I would do all kinds of other stuff that now just overwhelms me because it's stuff everywhere and I live in stuff everywhere. I actually love video creating because I can create that stuff. I have to say this because I'm just going to die laughing. Charlene says, to be honest and not talking bad, I love you and your channel, but I saw you as ADD in your videos. I didn't know you weren't ADD, but it doesn't matter now. You can figure out to make things easier. I have talked to my friends. I mean, friends I've been with for 20, 30 years, and I'm like, hey, did you know I was reading some stuff on ADD? And like, I'm really shocked. That's all me. Did you? I mean, I'm like totally shocked. And they're just like, this is the first time you've actually have thought of this? Tell me this cannot be the first time. I mean, I'm going to cry emotionally because it's just like, it's so just like, you know, light bulb, you know, epiphany here. They're like, seriously, it cannot be the first time you thought that you're ADD. And I was like, no, seriously, it is. I had no idea. Apparently, everybody has known. I went and I talked to my chiropractor and I said, okay, I want to talk to you about something. You probably already know because I'm finding that to be the common thing. But, you know, I think we're all ADHD people in my family. And he's just sitting there listening to me. He's like, and I'm watching his smile on his face. And I'm like, you knew too. Why isn't anybody telling me this stuff? Not that it actually changes anything anybody has to think about me. And that's like the really cool part. I don't expect anything to change in my outside world. What I'm really excited about is no longer committing myself to things that I feel like I should be able to do because that's what conventional people do. I'm calling them conventional, that use their front lobe that way. Conventional people do. So I would try to hold myself to that standard, and I'd be fearful to say no, even though I know it's going to be like really hard for me to do it, that I said yes. And I feel like for once in my life, from this point on, the cusp of turning 40, I can actually reasonably tell you no. Because I know that's so hard for me to do, because now I understand I legitimately, my brain is not going to be where in the past I would try to make it work because that's what conventional people do. They can stick things out. It's not a very big Pinterest board, but trust me, every midnight between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., it's growing of some level in a hyper-focused web search. It grows. You know, but it's just the fact of I can legitimately say no and not feel guilty. My brain just doesn't work that way, and it's okay. I totally cope with it in other methods, and it's been really freeing. It's been so freeing. So let's go to the next one. 22 is always being there to provide a different perspective. Number 23, willingness to fight for what you believe in, and is that not the truth? 24, excellent and motivating others. So am I really? Number 25, being highly organized, punctual, and generally responsible. That's just a joke. No, we're not. You know, and so these are things like a lot of times, you know, can be spent in a negative way. And turn around and like really looking at it is like, and talking to my kids, this is just how our brains work. We can do so many powerful things. Our hyper focus is like a superpower. People can't touch. Now, do we look like procrastinators? Yeah, I've always been kind of shameful about being a procrastinator. It would drive myself nuts. But in most cases, more often than not, it had to do with me needing a deadline, needing that like stress-induced deadline for my brain to turn on and be interested in doing it. It had nothing to do with me being lazy. It wasn't about being lazy, waiting until the last minute. It had to do with my brain wouldn't function yet, which also means that's not a bad thing. I work so good with deadlines that I didn't set up. With deadlines set up by other people, because if I set it up, they're negotiable. If they set it up, they're not. In fact, Michelle from A Common Life and I just had that phone conversation that with the VHC, I'm working with her and Tanya from Project Happy Home, and we're going to sit down together to create our schedule because I cannot adhere to my own. So I must then participate in somebody else's because I know they're not negotiable. And that puts me the fire I need to get my brain kicked in. That's a coping mechanism before I figured out it was ADHD brain. Totally find them. Listen, I'm with you, Kitty. I've done my best work being a procrastinator. I'm really good at it. But it's when my brain turns on. So I will tell you, I am fixing to devour some serious books. I am going to eventually find, but I'll probably space out before I get there because, you know, that's apparently normal and I'm not going to feel guilty for it. I'm finding a doctor to evaluate us all and figure out what we should or could or should look into so we don't have any missed opportunities. I mean, I think I function just fine. I found out how to function just fine. But I need to make sure, but I don't know when I'm going to get to that. I'm not trying to self-diagnose, but I'm seeing that, hey, this is where my life is at. And if I'm figuring out coping mechanisms, then let's keep figuring out coping mechanisms. I'm not rushing out looking for drugs. I don't really think something's wrong with my brain. It just works different. And it's learning how to go on that. Can you create a Pinterest board for the book list? Sure. Let me write that down because, you know, I'll forget. ADHD book list. If you forgive me, just because I need to support my channel, I'm going to make that entire book list to be nothing but affiliate links, if you don't mind. But it's just a way that it helps me compensate for the activities and the expenses I incur through doing this channel. So anyways, we got 12 minutes. I know I've missed some serious good conversations. Hit me with them now. And I'm going to take my book out and I'm going to be ready for prayer requests too. Do your prayer request in caps so I can see it. So I can, you know, distinguish. All right, can you tell us the name of the list one more time? Type in ADD on Pinterest. I have a Pinterest board that's like ADD and ADHD family life or something like that. And this is pinned in there. But I just typed to search 25 things to love about ADD. No problem with C. I had my son evaluated. I did an evaluation and my son's teacher did an evaluation. They compared the two. According to mine, my son has ADHD, but his teacher was completely opposite. Well, and the other part about that too is that I've been reading. Okay, girls are probably the hardest to diagnose, or easiest to not notice. Let's change it that way. Easiest to not notice. If you have a hyperactive ADHD, that's really easy to notice. But if they're not hyperactive and they're kind of dreamy, well, then that doesn't look like it fits the characteristic. Or maybe they're both. You know, and to be honest with you, a teacher is not a doctor. A teacher is not a doctor. They're just observing things in their classroom as they're observing the situation that's unfolding between 18 and 20 kids. Your one kid is one of those 18. There's 5% of the activity going on. So that would be kind of to it. I will tell you, I don't need drugs. I don't think I need drugs. I'm not looking for drugs. So it kind of takes away the urgency to go find a doctor to tell me something I already know. Oh, here's the website I've been kind of going to. See it? ADD Etude is the website, Living Well with Attention Deficit. And so one of the things, like I'd printed up, is when you have ADHD too, 18 tips for parents with ADHD. Because don't you think we all have it? And so I'm looking at ways that we can link in to like my family, structure it differently. You know, my husband is not like excited, like, oh, I don't want to read about ADHD. Well, I need to have him think about it as it relates to our children, to do that research to learn to accommodate and how we accommodate our life better. And so one of the ways I'm doing that is I'm actually sending him no more than 5 minutes, because he doesn't have that attention span, a 5-minute video that is something in our life going on. And so today was ADHD and anger, you know, and coming to the realization that sometimes those of us with ADHD come off very angry, and we're not. We're on Ferrari mode with no brakes. And so I'm trying to send him little videos that he can watch at lunch very quickly, very easily. And I'm going to send him the same one until he's watched it, or, you know, until obviously he doesn't have enough attention to watch that one. Send him another one. Not every day, but routinely enough to get him in there. Now, what does that mean? How do I do that? Because I don't adhere to schedules or routines very well. You know, what's that video? That video is what, let's see. Oh, no, it's not what. That channel is called How to ADHD. You see that? So I got it. How to ADHD is the channel name, and she has a zillion videos that are fantastic. And one is called ADHD and Anger. And it was just amazing, because we can come off very angry, and sometimes we are because we're agitated, but it doesn't really mean we're angry. And that's been a changing part in like teaching my kids to understand, like, when one of their siblings acting that way, they're not actually angry at them. They're just in Ferrari mode with bicycle brakes. They're not slowing that part of their brain down. And she talks about part of the brain stuff. It's been really amazing. You can have all the same conversations without the word. Yeah. Yep, I agree. I should make videos on tips on this. You should, Charlene, because I will totally be watching them. All right, so we're down to about 7 minutes. Do you guys have any prayer requests for me to pray over you today? Let me have them. Again, all caps. I will be doing a blanket prayer for all of us coming together and the benefits we get to be together. I am just not going to lie. I am so excited to understand this. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me. It just explains so much. And I'm so thrilled to have that explanation in my life, instead of constantly beating myself up for not measuring up to things that my brain is just not capable of doing. And no longer feeling guilty or feeling irresponsible or lazy because I lost the keys again. or because I wrote the bill but forgot to mail it, because my brain doesn't work for that like that. I'm praying. I have been praying for you and your family. Thank you so much. Pray for me and a decision our family is going to have to make about church. Okay, Mama Cat. Church. Decisions. Yes, feeling like I'm not as good as others. It is hard, you know, because you beat yourself up because you look at everybody living with a conventional brain and how they do things. And the world's set up with those expectations, with no negotiation for those of us that don't have brains that work that way. You know, and then there's always the constant nitpicking, nagging, well, why can't you do this and why can't you do that? I heard it all the time with my family growing up. And it was crazy because I was picked out at it. My mom was picked at it. As I'm telling my mom the description, she's like, that's me. I'm like, I know. Now all of a sudden, like, where I would pick at her a little bit too. I'm like, well, why can't you just do this? Well, she couldn't. And then on top of it was my grandfather. I mean, we're seeing very quickly just from the characteristics, like we have a whole genetic line of it. Please continue to lift up my oldest. Okay, that's Candy. G. Her doctor is, in my opinion, over medicating. Okay. Oldest. Okay, medicating. Pray for me and untangling the crazy in my life. This video chat actually helps. Yay, Kitty. I'm so happy. I wasn't sure if I was ready to share it, and it's right there. It's the only thing I can think about. So if I came in and talked to you about I'm only one person, I can't do it all, the whole time I'd be thinking about this. So next week, maybe that will be the week we talk about, you know, can't do it all, you're just one person. Kitty, untangling the chaos. ADHD can be such a superpower. My friend has it, and it's unstoppable when she is in that mode of focus. Right, Zane? That's how I feel. I'm like, dude, this is my superpower. This works out really cool. But it also gives me the ability to say, I'm in the middle of my superpower mode. You need to be careful how you approach and be nice. Yes, I lose my keys constantly and sound angry when I'm really just passionate and focused on an issue. Amen. Pray God gives me energy. Yes, Charlene. For energy. The meds for my health issue is draining me so bad. And health issue. Glad you talked about it too. Good to hear someone you trust on that topic. It's a new topic for me. I do not know half of anything yet, but I will learn. And I'm going to figure out how this impacts my home, how this changes my approach in my homeschooling. And, you know, I couldn't understand why I couldn't figure out how to make a list to do the skills and why I need curriculum. You know, just learning how to look at my curriculum as a resource and not become a slave to it, because in some ways is that more of that characteristic of somebody with that limitation looking to adhere to some level, because we can't figure out how to, because we're so busy at looking at the wrong angle of it. And for me, I finally feel like I'm not looking at the wrong angle. I now really see like it has to do with, this is our resources. What do we need to do to stay focused? So instead of chasing the task to get the task done, it's now chasing how do we engage our brains to be focused? You know, phase one of, hey, we all got ADHD. How does this affect our homeschool? Hey, we need to work on being focused. So when we're not focusing, how do we trick our brain back in to being focused? And those are the things I'm working at and looking at in our homeschool. So I'm going to stop apologizing that we keep switching curriculum. Now I get why we keep switching curriculum. ADD or not, you're a great person and have helped me so much in homeschooling. Thank you, Ashley. I'm glad that my journey, that I'm able to voice my journey and convey my journey, that you're not alone, I'm not alone. We're all in this together. Some days it is so hard that nobody wants to talk about. And you can be an advocate for homeschooling if you don't like it day to day, even still. You don't have to love every moment of it to be an advocate, to know that this is what's right. Charlene says we should do a live thing together so I can talk about it. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do it, Charlene. We can do that on your channel. We can do it on mine. Whenever you want. Let's do it on yours. Kitty says, I diagnosed myself at 17 and took the loss last year. My mom, she said, oh yeah, your dad had that. He was diagnosed in his 40s, but she never thought to check her kids. I learned to cope on my own. Oh, you learned to cope. Ugh. Gotta go. See you, Lone Star. Thanks for stopping in. I know. I gotta go. I gotta do this prayer. I do want to tell you one more thing, but I just lost that one more thing. Isn't that normal? Maybe it'll come back. But I'm really thankful that I have you guys to talk about these things. You know, there's days that things are just hard, and it's hard whether your brain's working conventionally or not conventionally. It's hard. It's just one of those things. It's grueling. This is the most humblest place of service you could ever be, and it's at home. And it's at home because there's nobody eager to run to tell you thank you. There's nobody giving you a pay raise. There's no affirmation. And most of the time, you're going to be ridiculed. Didn't we just have a hater earlier that said, go get a job? You know, dude, I have a job. It doesn't pay much, but it changes the world. And that's what we do as moms. It drives my family nuts that I can't focus in the kitchen until it's clean. Depending on the mess, I may not cook breakfast until 10, but the kitchen will be clean before I start. You know what I do to clean the kitchen? Because I don't have an eagerness to clean the kitchen. I cook something. If I cook something, it puts me in the mode to clean the kitchen. Another coping mechanism. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pray for us. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the time you brought us together. Thank you for the enlightenment. Thank you for the ability to take this journey with so many other women that are just kind of sitting on the other side going, yeah, that's me. Lord, I appreciate the end times technology that you give us through YouTube to get here to be together in the same moment. Lord, I'm also thankful for the times, for the gadgets you give us to keep us on task. Lord, I'm also thankful for the times that you provide just the ability to come back and watch somebody else and go, that's me. Lord, thank you for just the mighty heart that you've given us to be able to take this journey in motherhood that is oftentimes grueling and judgmented, if that's a word, but yet so rewarding. Lord, thank you for the times you give us the ability to rise above the just everyday chaos, to see the beauty of this journey. Lord, be with Mama Cat as she's making these decisions with her family, for the church that she belongs to. Lord, remind her in her heart and give her that freedom on the aspect that your church is the people that love you and have just surrendered their life to you. It's not a building. It's not a section of congregation, dear Lord, and that the community that they're in may no longer be the place for them to be at your service, and it might be somewhere else, dear Lord, or sometimes it's the fact it's the place where to stay because you're not done there. Lord, I've had many times with my feet out the door in one community to go to another, and you've told me to stay, and I did not understand why until later. And Lord, I'm thankful for your persistence on me. Dear Heavenly Father, be with Candy G as she's dealing with having to find that balance of what's right. And you're the great physician. You know the problems that she's facing. And just let clarity come on just helping her oldest daughter deal with the medication balance that she has and give those doctors guidance to provide that right balance. Dear Lord, be with Kitty as she's like probably having an aha moment here, dear Lord, as she's just figuring out how to untangle the chaos. And you know what, Lord? I don't think you call us to untangle every bit of chaos. I don't even think that you call us to be the one doing it. I feel like you have called us to sit back because your yoke is not heavy, if I said that right, or that your yoke is light. And as long as I'm following in your will, you will clear the way that needs to be done. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, be with Charlene as she's balancing the medical issues she has, dear Lord, and the energy to be able to get forth. I know what it's like to feel unproductive. Lord, and I know how it can be grueling and depressing at times to not feel as though you've been productive. Lord, you know where I stand in my problems, Lord. I just lift my problems to you and let it be within your will, and give me a heart of excitement when it's not the same as mine. In your son's precious name, I pray. All right. And I'll remember you, Peace and Pantry, in my prayers too. Teaching them that they need to either clean as they go or clean up after themselves so the meals are on time has been a challenge. Well, and some of that has to do with what I've been reading, Compass, is the fact that reward systems work. And gamification. That's actually a YouTube video by How to ADHD, is gamification. So thank you, ladies, so much for this time to be with you, and just the blessings that I always get being with you each and every day. And I just look forward to next week. And let me know, message me, leave a message down below after the video has ended, the live stream has ended, on topics that you'd like to touch on, and let's see if we can go down that rabbit trail. Amen, Trish, you hit things on the head. Seriously, you don't even know the situation, but you prayed what I have been. Listen, I've had some serious times of that. So anyways, I still don't remember what I was going to talk to y'all about, but in that just the normal way it's going to be. And I'm so thankful to have y'all. I'm going to get off here and eat a little light lunch so that I don't ruin my dinner, as always. I will talk to you later.